Why is Honduras so dangerous?
One of the poorest and most violent countries in Latin America.
Police fired tear gas at protesters, but it didn't stop them from marching in their thousands towards Congress.
The gangs told me to either leave or choose the way I wanted to die.
Thousands of people from Honduras
escaping an economy battered by the pandemic, gang violence and hurricanes.
My goal is to reach the United States. Why? Because of the level of crime that we have in this country, because of the lack of work, the lack of education, because of extreme poverty.
These people are desperate.
Honduras, one of the most violent and dangerous countries in the world, constantly dealing with major problems related to corruption and extreme gang violence. And on top of this, only a few months ago, Honduras was struck by 2 major hurricanes, which wiped out entire neighborhoods. Because of all this compounding suffering, thousands have fled the country, headed towards the United States for a better life. Throughout this video series, I will travel all throughout Honduras, meet the people, and hear their side of the story.
Do you feel safe living here?
No. Not at all, not at all.
Passport.
Where are those kids?
I'm Carlos.
Carlos, I'm Nick.
Va para abajo.
Welcome back to San Pedro Sula. Currently in the downtown area, but we're about to head to a slum, a barrio, which is controlled by MS-13 and Barrio 18. They're the 2 biggest gangs, not only in Honduras, some of the biggest gangs in Central America. It is known, obviously, to be a very hostile and dangerous place. It was, though, a lot more dangerous. In 2004, there was a massacre there. There was 28 people killed because the government changed the law. The gangs fought back by massacring 28 people. Nowadays, the gangs are a lot more organized. It's not so kind of in your face, the gang activity, from what I've been told. It's a lot more kind of controlled and more underbelly. So we're gonna jump in the car, drive out of the downtown area, and we're gonna head into the slum, maybe meet some people here, find out what it's like to live in these notorious neighborhoods. Got to be quite careful. I think in some areas we have to drive with the windows down, so everybody, the gang can see our faces, just know that we're not doing anything that they don't want us doing, essentially. We've come into the neighborhood and we've just stopped off. If you didn't see the last video, I covered a bit of the huge hurricane that's recently hit Honduras and just caused absolute devastation. You can see behind me in here. So there was a huge hurricane and people started cleaning up and getting everything back to normal. 8 days later, another one hit and just put everybody back in the same situation. So we've driven further into this neighborhood, and I don't know if you can make it out, but in the background there's a corrugated iron fence, and that separates, that's like the border of one of the most notorious neighborhoods in Honduras. Amare, can you just explain to us a bit about this area and that border?
Apparently in this area, MS is more relaxed than the 18. Across that the border is the 18.
Oh, so right now we're in MS-13.
I'm just like you. I've been outside Honduras for a while, living in safe places. So coming back here is like...
intimidating.
Bad things happen, but not all the time. This is in the middle of Chamelecon.
Chamelecon is like, if you say that to many Hondurans, they'd freak out, right? Like
yeah,
that's famous for being a very dangerous place.
The massacres, they call it crazy houses, stuff like that.
Loco casa.
Casas locas, yeah. Stuff like that.
Then that's where they do torturing and things like that.
Yeah, extortion, they control all of that. Famous war tax. All of that things related
war
to...
taxes when they go into local businesses or bus drivers and they say you have to pay the set amounts of money.
In order to run your business, you have to pay us.
And if you don't pay, you get killed.
You get killed.
And that's just
like that.
Indiscriminately, just killed. It's really quite interesting for me because we're standing in MS-13 neighborhood, one of the world's most notorious gangs, right? It's world famous. Started originally in US prisons, right? And then they were deported back to Honduras and then they kind of took over the weak governments of Central America and things.
things. Quite interesting that we're standing right here and there's very nice people around, there's kids playing. And
Very relaxed vibe.
Right? But across down there in Barrio 18 gang, it's just you wouldn't ever go there, but here it's okay.
Here is okay.
So does that mean that the MS-13 has kind of developed to a point where they don't want to have so much street violence and they try to keep things reasonably stable?
For what I heard, they became businessmen. Now they have taxis, they have transport business, and they own properties, and they don't want attention. It's not like a street gang in controlling territory. Now it's that they are a little bit above, a step further. And now it's about narco. Now it's about drug trafficking. It's more money involved in that.
But then in saying that, like, something still could like pop off here, right? Like something could still happen any minute.
At night, I wouldn't dare to do
night.
this.
And even in the day, something could happen.
Yep. Don't relax too much.
Don't relax too much. Hola. So where I'm standing now is the normal level, but the hurricane washed all this dirt in here and the flooding was up to the top of the roof. You can see there's dirt on the roof. That's how high complete neighborhoods here, just completely soaked in mud. Buenos dias. Hey, muy bien. Very nice people. Most of the houses are single story, but people with two-story houses, many people from the neighborhood would gather on those roofs of those houses because their houses were completely soaked, and you can see all around me. This is like above head height.
This is overwhelming. This is really
never-ending work, right? Bedroom.
Keep this safe.
So they have to take all the mud and clear it out onto the roads, but you can see that's the level of mud there. Look, they have to take it out all by hand. So you can see we've come into one of the houses here and we've met some locals.
Pues la situación actual que tenemos nosotros es, en el caso mío,
still need some help because it's impossible for them to do it by themselves.
Algunos agarramos para los albergues, las escuelas, otros para la centro.
People in shelters, schools, under the bridge, anywhere that it was like on a high level away from their homes, and they left everything.
Porque usted sabe que están donde vivir uno.
They definitely need food and everything, but most of all they need to restore their houses so they can inhabit their houses, because then God will provide. That's what they are asking to us, people to help them so they can come back to their houses and live here.
Is anybody helping at all? The government organizations, anything?
No,
nothing?
He explained it before that there is no government help. That's the usual thing. People gather together to help each other, but government presence or help is you don't see that.
Que solo están ya los solares. Por ejemplo, mi mamá vive al fondo y otras
They're
casas.
kind of lucky to still have the walls. There's people who lost completely everything. There is just the land. There is no house anymore.
So that shows how desperate the situation is when
this is desperate.
When they say that they're lucky and this is the
normally these people have to deal with poverty and lack of resources and no potable water and all that. And on top of that, then they have this situation in the middle of a pandemic. So you can now make your numbers. This is desperate. Really, it's overwhelming, and as a Honduran, I'm in shock. Vamos a buscar la forma de ver si hay una organización.
Chico, no lo sabe.
Down there? The more upper class neighborhoods there seem to be okay, but then you come to these lower class neighborhoods and they're just destroyed, so they don't have money to fix it. To get an understanding of this, I'm standing like roof height, and this is all the mud that's been taken out of houses. Look, suitcases. We went to a house and there were washed out passports, completely damaged. We met a young man called Joel. Apart from the hurricane, this neighborhood has somewhat of a negative reputation. What's it like living here?
Pues sí, es seguro.
¿Es seguro en esta zona? Sí. Okay. He says that it's safe in this area. Yeah.
He likes living here.
¿Le agrada vivir acá? ¿Es tranquilo?
Sí, es tranquilo.
Tranquilo.
Y somos una comunidad.
They're a community, so they're kind of united and together. There's take care of each other.
So this house is the ladies on the left there. All this dirt here is dug out by hand, look.
Gracias.
Bueno.
This is the shelter that they're living in the meanwhile.
¿Tu casa?
Sí.
¿Comida?
Sí.
Ajá. ¿Sopa? Ajá. So this is their house. And they're living here temporarily. Five people living in the tent. Uh-huh. How long do they think they'll have to stay here for?
Mucho tiempo.
They say in a lot of time. They didn't say time, but they said lots. Los niños están yendo a la escuela.
Sí, ahorita van a comenzar a clase.
There's a young boy here carrying a sheet of rusty corrugated iron to help rebuild this house. Quite hard to get an understanding of the scale of this hurricane. We're seeing just endless houses as far as the eye can see. This devastation in the background. They were just saying that because of COVID, the kids are told so that they can't go into the schools and they have to do school from home. You know, these people can't afford a computer, they can't do this online learning, so they're going without education for who knows how long until they get vaccinated, all these people. So not only are they devastated because of the hurricane, the pandemic is stopping them from getting education. Also, there's a tight grip from gangs of these neighborhoods. So it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a very, very beautiful area. Like, this is just on the other side.
No han venido ni a meter en que haya algo ahí para limpiar ahí. Nada. Nosotros mismos estamos haciendo.
Not help at all from the government, not even bag with food. They call it Bolsa Solidaria. That's part of the government campaign to say that they are helping and giving food to the people, but not even that. These little wood houses are given by some missionary people. Is helping these people with the food.
From the US?
From the US, people from the US. ¿Cómo es la vida aquí para?
No, aquí es tranquilo.
This is a nice neighborhood, nothing happens here.
And do you think it's safe? You don't want to talk about it?
Yeah, this usually people don't talk about that kind of stuff, Nick.
But you as an outsider, what's known about these places?
This place is known for having a bad reputation. Gang activity, gang violence, and gang control neighborhoods. This is Chamelecon, so everybody knows it. But people don't, especially on camera, they won't say anything. You know, I find this extremely offensive. This is a typical politicians. They want votes, but they don't come here. And you listen to the people, and no one is providing, no one is assisting, no one is giving them anything. But yeah, they want votes. So I found this extremely, extremely offensive to the people. So they should burn this shit down.
So we just pulled over on the side of the road and there's young boys fishing, right?
La hora de la cena.
That's lunch, that's dinner. So this is survival, Nick. Toasted with tortillas is a delicious meal.
And do you sell some of these or you keep them for yourself?
That's just for us. That tells a lot of the Honduran spirit, because we're always smiling, even with this struggle and things we have to endure. And you were asking me actually about why do we smile all the time, but we always saying hello to people, because that's the Honduran spirit. This is a sad thing to see. The people is smiling, even in this slum and these conditions.
It's money, dale. It's money, dale.
Chocomito.
So we've driven like 20 minutes south of San Pedro. We're on this super busy highway here, but behind me you can see these kind of makeshift shanty houses made of mostly corrugated iron. This is actually what they call like hijacked land. There's a shortage of housing for people, so they come out here to this empty land here, and then they build houses, and then from what I've been told, they battle against the government to win the papers for it. So people own this land, but then the people come and build on it and then kind of claim it. They live here for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then they try to get the papers for it and then maybe on-sell it. Constantly people walking from that side of the road, which looks a bit more developed, crossing this busy road, even young kids by themselves coming into this neighborhood. All these people were also affected by the hurricane. A lot of these houses wiped out and they've been rebuilt. Some of them look quite new.
Houses wiped out and hurricanes, and people lost everything.
Hola. Buenas tardes. Something interesting about Honduras is it's very beautiful, the landscape, you know, the plantations. The people are very warm and welcoming, and they're always up for a chat. Everybody says hello to you when you're walking down the street. That's a perfect example of it. But then, you know, on the other side, there's a lot of pain here, obviously, because of the hurricane is the instant one that hits you. But then the gangs having a strong grip on the neighborhoods. It's hard to know how the people really feel about living in gang-controlled neighborhoods. They can't say anything bad because it'll come back to them. They'll get in trouble, possibly killed. Some of them you can kind of see on their face that they don't actually feel comfortable talking about it, and they feel almost intimidated to even speak about it or to be asked the question. So it's not really for me to say, but just to observe their answers, you know what I mean? So. So we've driven to the other side of town. We have been to some rundown areas today, obviously, but there are very nice neighborhoods here. There's some really nice houses through here. We just went through some huge gated communities with big mansions and things. And then there's lots of nice like middle-class neighborhoods, like where the hotel we're staying is a nice reserved neighborhood. I don't want you to get the idea that this whole city is slums and rundown, because it's not at all the case. So we're gonna talk to our driver Dennis now and ask him a few questions. Is he like comfortable talking about living in a gang neighborhood? Can I ask questions about that?
No, porque como toda mi vida he vivido ahí.
No, it's no problem.
It's okay. It's hard for somebody like me to understand what it's like to grow up living in a neighborhood which is controlled by gangs. Can you run us through what things you have to be careful of? Because you're a taxi driver, has there been times you've had to pay the gang to be able to continue to do your job?
No te voy a dar el nombre de la colonia donde yo vivo, ¿va? Porque vas a ver.
I won't give you the name of my neighborhood because you know how it is.
Tengo de vivir donde yo vivo 30 años.
He's been living 30 years in this neighborhood. He has learned to be blind, deaf, and just not open your mouth. People ran away, people got killed, people lost their property. If you go to the police, that's what you're facing. Shootouts, massacres, 4 houses next to mine, shootings between police and gang members.
Vieran lo que vieran, oyeran lo que oyeran.
Teach the kids, if they see something, not to tell anyone, not to talk. We don't have to be friends, but we live in the same neighborhood, so we have to find a way to get along, even with this kind of people.
Me he dedicado al transporte, al rubro de
He's always working with in transport, like having a taxi. He is used to pay them the rent. We won't call it extortion because people are so familiar with that it's like you have your taxi, you know that you have to pay. The gang members call it the war tax, they call it the rent. Pay the rent.
How much do they have to pay?
A una sola mara.
Each taxi pays 650 lempiras weekly. 10-15% of their earning.
What happens if you don't pay that?
Como dicen ellos, va para abajo. O le pegan una calentadita.
It's kind of a Honduran slang, va para abajo. It's like you going down.
So those are obviously the worst parts of living here. And what are the best?
Pues lo mejor es que podemos
That I can depend on my own, having his own business, having his own vehicles, not depending on the government or salary and stuff like that. The government promised to help them with bonus and stuff, but so far he has seen just 2. So he's glad and thankful that he's able to make a living and provide for his family just by his own. Look at that guy, he's looking at us. He's been here twice, checking on us. Not only that one, the other one, now we have a pickup truck over there with the people, and I think we should get moving. I don't want to deal with these people. I mean, we're on the street.
Are they patrolling the rich neighborhoods?
Yeah, that rich neighborhood. Just because we were with the camera.
Security in this city is very tight. Like everywhere you go is very, very strict security. Like in shops and everything. Everybody has like shotguns and things, and so there's obviously danger here if it's that strict, right?
Yeah, you see, it's very chill. It's very until you see the guys with the shotguns and everything, because everybody's like situation is tense, and we're close to a rich neighborhood, so there's more guards and more patrolling and more cameras and stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to portray like the reality of how it feels here, and it's definitely like 50-50. 1 minute it seems pretty calm, and then
who's blocking the road? Let's go. Message. That's the message. Just
huh?
Oh, they have phones over there.
That was quite intense. Some guys in like a car with tinted windows put up cones at one end of the road to block it off, and then they blocked the other side of the road in a car, and we were the only people in the middle. And before that same car was going up and down looking at us, so it was a bit sketchy. And that's the thing, it's super ironic, because we felt, you know, we're in that safer, well, what we perceived to be a safer neighborhood, just a random street basically on a back road. But there were expensive houses, don't have knowledge on it, but from what I've been told, there's maybe some people owning those houses without the best motives, if you understand what I'm saying. Everything's okay and people are friendly and it's chill. Like I've said this multiple times, but it's really important to emphasize it. But then there's a very dark side underneath, very, very dark. I mean, it is a lot better than it was back when it was dubbed the murder capital of the world. Obviously, when that has been the past, that doesn't just disappear, right? It takes a long, long time. And I mean, a few days ago there were 6 people massacred downtown. Like I was saying, it wasn't in some random neighborhood. It was in the downtown area where we've been walking around. We just bought some food at the same place where that took place. Dennis was telling us some more things. I don't understand that man. So kind and friendly, and he's got this great energy, cheerful, and everything's good. But his daughter was murdered. His grandkids were left without a mother. 7 months ago, his wife and his son died, not from gang violence, from disease. I said, internally, how do you feel? He said, no, I'm very happy. Thank God. He's a very religious man. There's no words that you can put on that, right? I can use word like resilience or something, but it doesn't compute. Dennis was saying, you hear somebody getting killed, you just carry on living your life. You don't see it, you don't hear it, you just don't talk about it. So you can understand why there's mass migration out of this country. Obviously there's more of Honduras to see. We're going to travel more. I've been very welcomed by the people in Honduras, I want to say that. Thank you for watching, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.